Madam President, thank you, Madam President. I rise today briefly as well in opposition to this resolution. And it's not in opposition to the hardworking individuals, many individuals who are doing literally God's work in terms of helping those in the disability community, helping those who are aging. It's in opposition to individualized silos in which this agreement has been drafted. And what I mean by that is, as many have mentioned previously in opposition to this resolution, this should be a collective solution. We have individuals within this union that are PCAs that make up to about 8% of the services that are provided in this area in terms of home health care and allowing individuals to age in place at home. There's no doubt that many of those individuals work tirelessly to help either a loved one or even in cases where it's private, a non-loved one, but they certainly work hard to help those they're tasked with serving and working for. And many do an incredible job. But when you have about 90+% of the population that's working with separate, private, nonprofit in many cases, home health care agencies, not a part of this, that's where my opposition comes into play, and that's where the opposition of many that have stood up in opposition today comes into play. Because you can't help one and completely forget about the other. And so we have individuals doing this type of work that are part of a particular union that we're saying, we're going to give you an increase here today. But the other 90% of individuals who do the same exact work, who work just as tirelessly for the individuals they help to serve, are getting nothing. And so that leads to many issues. One in the fact of recruitment. These nonprofit agencies are having an extremely difficult time finding employees to do this type of work. Now, with striking this agreement, separately from that, it's going to make it that much more difficult for these nonprofits to recruit new employees and retain those employees. On top of that, many have heard from these nonprofit agencies saying they're looking for increases because they cannot operate their current budgets with the funding that they currently have. And so they're coming to us saying we'd like to see an increase in funding just to make ends meet. And so while we're doing that, making it more and more difficult for them to retain employees, we're also having a very difficult time as we hit a budget season or a budget adjustment season to provide that funding they need to continue to operate. So far too often in this building, and we've worked hard on this, we have not collaborated in the decisions that we make. And I think this is an example of that. It's a lack of collaboration in terms of giving to one and moving on from the other. And with this population of individuals we're looking to serve here in terms of those receiving these services from these PCAs, I'm not going to sit idly by, and many other senators are not going to sit idly by as we give to one and then forget about the others. And again, that's 90% of the population is in that group we're talking about here. So it's not necessarily a vote today in opposition to an increase in funding, to an increase in the minimum wage. Many of these individuals are understandably very deserving. It's an opposition to working separately on an issue we should be collaborating on. If we can collaborate on anything in this building, it should be on this. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Senator.